Hi, it's Brian Newman with the Spotlight of Business Owner Show, and today we're thrilled to have back Howard Morin with Helium Advisors. Hi, Howard. How are you?
Good, Brian. Good morning. Happy New Year. It's
Yeah, thanks.
beautiful, beautiful, chilly Saturday morning. You can see them. I've got a little bit more insulation on this morning.
Oh, I know, I know. Here we're in Arizona, and yeah, you would think it'd be a little warmer, but it does get chilly in the winter.
Yes,
You
yes, it
know,
does. I'm learning that.
no. So, you know what? I know there's a lot going on out there in the world right now with inflation running rampant and gas prices going up, supply chain problems still in existence. You know, what should people be doing with their finances?
Wow, that's a great question. You're absolutely right on a lot of the things that are happening right now. I put together, essentially kind of a New Year's tips and guidance for both individuals and families as well as for business. But I guess I want to step back for a second and say that, while we are in the business of giving advice every day, nothing that I'm really getting into is really specific to any one person. It's, hopefully general education, and then people can always reach out to us for specific advice. So this is more educational, broad in nature, and obviously being regulated. I have to mention those things, but you're absolutely right. The supply chain, inflation, and there are a lot of people that are really concerned about the cost of literally going to the grocery store, right, or putting gas in the car or truck. We do see relief in some areas. We see it getting worse in others. Interest rates just ticked up this week significantly, and that's going to affect borrowing, mortgages, credit card payments, car payments, stuff like that. The economy is very sensitive to that. It may not seem like a lot, but there's a lot of history that shows that our economy is very sensitive to even small interest rate changes. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm going to go through a couple of specific things for not only for businesses but for families, and I'm happy to do that whenever you're ready, Brian. And
Oh
hopefully
yeah.
those tips answer some of those things like, oh my God, what do I do now? So.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, in the spirit of New Year's resolutions, yeah, so
Mhm.
what tips can you offer to the small business owner, to individuals or
Sure.
families?
Yeah. So do you mind if I do a screen share and just
No,
show a
that'd be
couple of things I
great.
had on my
That'd
little
be
checklist
great.
I prepared for today?
Yeah.
Awesome. And obviously, Brian, stop me at any moment and I'm happy to drill down here.
Okay.
So, people always ask, right? I mean, a lot of times we go into the new year and we make these resolutions, right? I want to lose some weight, or I want to join the gym, or everyone has these different resolutions. And I encourage that, right? There's no reason not to do that.
Mhm.
But I would say take this a little differently, right? As opposed to the next vacation or losing 10 pounds, 20 pounds, these other type of goals that are typical. And then they kind of get washed away in a couple of months. These are things that can set a foundation for either good financial practice, good business practice. Some of it may be common sense, but hopefully people can glean, what I'm going to go through here shortly.
Okay.
Overall, I think the most important thing, and this is what we're sharing with our clients right now, and friends, is just be aware of what's going on, right? You started off the session with saying, hey, inflation still issues, supply chain, all of these things going on. You don't have to be tuned into a 24/7 news cycle, but just be aware. If you're doing some family planning, be aware of the things that may impact you. If you're moving, check out, obviously do research. The internet's amazing for research, sometimes too amazing. If you're in business, create the business plan. Just know where you're headed, right? Don't go into 22 blindfolded. So I always tell people, get your information, understand what's facts and fiction. Look at real data, right? I mean, everyone has an opinion. Look at the data, and that hopefully makes decisions a little easier. Set goals. A lot of times people, we all know what goal setting is, right? We started it like as kids in grade school, right? Like at the PE field or outside, or we're in a race or we played sports. But a lot of times people try to set goals, and they're these enormous goals. I want to lose 100 pounds this year, right? But they don't think about, I want to lose 25 pounds every 3 months. So I always tell people, whether it's individuals or businesses, set goals in increments that you can see milestones, much like a hike. I love hiking, right? Every
Uh-huh.
once in a while, it's good to see the mile marker, right, Brian? To know that we
Yeah.
don't have 20 more miles of a 5 mile hike. We can see where we're going. And I'll get into some of the goal setting here in a minute. And then finally, take action for improvement. If you go on social media, and you're unbelievable, right, with the referral network, and people are always putting out these awesome tips and things that we all can do incrementally, whether it's our health, our wellness, financial. The whole thing is to try to keep moving forward, right? And whether it's, getting 1% better a day, going to read that next book or an article or a white paper, just try to improve. Whatever that improvement is to you, that means something in your life. Try to do that on some sort of consistent basis. And I know that sounds easy, but life gets in the way. So just to
Oh, yeah.
recap on, what can we do now generally is, be aware, right? Know what's going on, set goals, and incrementally improve. Does that make sense, Brian? I'm going to
Oh,
unshare
yeah.
with you.
Oh, yeah. No, this is great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times, simply, even if it's a post-it note, right? Or a little piece of paper, write things down, keep them in front of you, keep them on your nightstand, whatever you need to do to keep those things that are important to you in front of
Uh-huh.
you. I'd say go do that. So I'm going to reshare my screen here,
Okay. Okay.
and we'll keep rolling through here. Bear with me 1 second. So what about being a business owner, right? So if we look at New Year's tips for business owners, and Brian, you know this as a, having an accounting background for a long
Yeah.
time, is just
Yeah.
get your books in order, right?
Oh, yeah.
Know your numbers. So whether you're running, IBM or a big public company, or you're just single person running a small business, just know your numbers, right? Get your books in order. Most importantly, really two things, right? And Brian, hopefully, you don't hang up on me when I share this as basic as it is. A profit and loss, also known as an income statement, right?
Yeah.
Basically
Yeah.
shows you, like, what did you bring in? What were your expenses? What's your profit, right? Uh, P&L, known as a P&L, profit loss, income statement, and then balance sheet, right? What do
Hmm.
you have? What do you owe? Who owes you? So just knowing your numbers, whether you're in a service business, I would say understand your cost of labor and delivering that service. So software tools, that sort of thing. Or if you're in a products business, you're delivering physical product, obviously cost of those goods, right? Inventories. And Brian mentioned, you mentioned, Brian, initially, supply chain. That's been a really big deal for people in the product business, more so than services. Services, we've seen issues with labor. Product business, we've seen massive issues with supply of goods, right? If
Yeah.
anyone's ever tried to buy a car in the past 12 months, right, there's always
Oh,
something. Chip
oh,
shortage,
yeah. There's no inventory. It's
right?
terrible. Yeah.
Right, chip shortage, right? You can buy a car or a truck, just make sure there's no chips in them. And I found out, I think this week, that some vehicles have thousands of chips. So,
Yeah.
go figure. Establish goals and a budget. If you think about any business, big or small, once you have your books in order, you can create a budget from essentially looking back at 2021 or 2020 and come up with some business goals, right? If you're into selling whatever you're selling, product or service, we simply tell people, like, what is the goal and how does it actually happen, right? Sometimes people say, I want to do 10% more. Where does the 10% come from, right? So what we try to tell people is break it down, right? If your goal is to grow the business 10% by the end of the year, you need to grow about 2.5% per quarter every 3 months, right? So what
Yeah.
is it? What are the actions you need to take to do that, right? So if you need 10 more customers, you might need 20 more meetings, right? You
Oh,
might
yeah.
need to generate 15 more proposals. So a lot of times, if you can break those things down, Brian, into bite-sized pieces and work backwards, those goals seem so, like, treacherous, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
also a budget, right? Know what you spent, right? Whether you're running a medical practice, a restaurant, landscaping, and then from looking at your 2021, establish a budget on what you spend on rent, marketing, labor, those things, because if you can't measure it, you're going to have a hard time managing it, right? Or adjusting it,
Hmm.
right? Or even knowing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 And I know even big businesses and small, no matter how small, they should have a budget,
Absolutely.
just as a guide to, like, to plan for the next year. And we're already into our next year. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great advice.
Yeah, no kidding. We do a lot of our annual planning around November, right? Because we already have 3 quarters worth of information, and our business is fairly predictable, and we try to project the fourth quarter, and then we start doing planning. So we hit the ground running in the new year. And then the other thing, from talking to a lot of business owners, both, people trying to start a new business as well as existing businesses, Brian, is simply play some defense, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if the last year or two has taught us anything, it's, we're going to get some surprises, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just when we think things are getting better, they might get more volatile. When things are kind of looking like they're just really bad, there's, good news. So, by defense, what I'm talking about is cash reserves, right? Especially in small business right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about buying that next, awesome piece of machinery that you really don't need yet, right? Unless you need a tax deduction or some sort of write-off, or that big giant super copier scanner for $5,000. Maybe hang on to cash, hang on to a little bit of cash. If you've got a great relationship with your banks, great time now to establish credit lines. So you have those credit lines in time when you actually need them, as opposed to trying to do it when you need it. So we're telling a lot of small businesses, and just in general, doesn't hurt to have some cash reserves right now, and maybe potentially delay some major purchases that are more, I would say, discretionary, nice to have until the future, right? A little bit more towards the future.
Uh-huh.
Second thing, government programs, right? I think PPP was very successful. They're still going through like forgiveness periods, but there are other programs like the ERC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit, which is phenomenal. It's about $26,000. It's up to $26,000 per employee if you
Oh,
retain employees. The SBA is a great resource. A lot of times people have heard of the SBA, but no one's ever gone to the website. I'd say
uh-huh.
go check it out, right? There's local grants, that may be state level, city level, county level. And then, there are specific industry-based programs like for restaurants and service industries and stuff, but SBA is a great resource for that. If you're not sure, call us, pick up the phone, call us, email me. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. And I know it can seem daunting, some of these big programs, but they're out there, right? It just, a lot of people don't know about them, or they're underutilized. And then I think you had asked earlier, like, what can people do right now for business? It's just
Yeah.
a lot of people you mentioned are getting out of the workplace, and they're starting their businesses to entrepreneurship, right? They're opening up an LLC, or they're doing these great things. The internet's an unbelievable resource for doing that, right? We help people do that all the time. And I would say, Brian, we're more, I'm going to just unshare my screen for a second. We're more coordinators of advice than literally like business startup experts, right? So typically somebody comes to us with a business plan or an idea, they're already operating, and they say something like, hey, do I have the right legal entity? I mean, we're not lawyers, but we're very familiar with how to run the business. So, getting the right team around you, whether those advisors are people you trust, mentors, people in your family, people in the community, is really important. But, we're here to help as well. So if we can't help you directly, we'll point you in the right direction, show you the couple of different options on the web or in your community, and help. But I know everyone out there, Brian, has some kind of superpower, right? And it's cool to see the entrepreneurship take off. And you're a big part of that,
Yeah.
obviously, with your 101 network.
Oh, thanks.
It's
Thanks. I
exciting to
was,
see that when I join the meetings.
oh, thank you. Thank you. No, yeah, that's great advice. There's a lot of people that are thinking of retiring, I'm just wondering, can you talk a little bit about planning, or should we dedicate the next show to retirement?
Yeah, we can dedicate a show entirely on retirement, but I think right now there are a lot of families, Brian, and individuals that have gone through the holidays, right? And we all see the news, right? We all go online. COVID, Omicron is made the headlines. People are out of work. People are nervous about the markets, inflation, that sort of thing. So I've got a couple of things I can show you here in a minute.
Yeah,
Of
yeah. If you have another slide, that'd be
course.
great.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So, for individuals and families, and we have these client conversations all the time. And I would say we've never been busier going into the holidays, and we've never been busier coming out of the holidays. And a lot of it has been around what to do, what are we doing now, right? Like, what are the actual steps I can take,
Uh-huh.
kind of like a recipe, right? To kind of get off on the right foot. Um, And once again, this is, general advice that we're providing out there and the things that we write about. But I think a lot of people are concerned, and I would say the first thing is, manage your risk, right? And whether that's, your own risk, like, insurance policies, home insurance, life insurance, things like that. This is a great time to reevaluate that, right? Like, are you covered? Do you have the right policies in place? And we're not in the insurance business per se, but I just tell people, it's part of the overall plan, manage your risk. And then
Yeah.
specifically in our day-to-day world, Brian, it's, what's your investment risk, your portfolio risk. And it's natural, right? When the markets do well, everyone's aggressive, right? When the market's going up 100 points a day or so much, 20% a year, it's easy for all of us to go, hey, I used to be moderate risk and now I'm aggressive, I'm high risk. And then the minute we have some volatility, like the last couple of weeks, I want to be conservative again.
Oh, yeah.
I would say generally our team advises, figure out whatever your objectives are, right? Are your goals really far out? Do you have 20, 30 years to retirement?
Hmm.
Or is retirement 5 years away, 10 years away? And, everyone that's been invested for the most part in the past couple of years has done pretty well. This is a great time to reallocate, to rebalance your portfolio. And what I mean by rebalance, simple analogy is, I think we all love pizza. And if you go to your favorite, party, Brian, let's say we're all at the party and somebody says, what do you guys want for pizza? And Brian says, I'd like half mushrooms. And Howard says, I like half pepperoni, right?
Yeah.
That's an equal 50-50, right? But all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden they show up and 3/4 of the pizza's pepperoni, excuse me. And Brian's, now 25% mushroom, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
brought back into balance. And that's what portfolios look like, honestly.
Uh-huh.
We tell people they kind of look like pizzas with a lot of slices. And if the aggressive got too big, the stocks or the growth side got too big, maybe it's time to kind of take some profits and rebalance. And that's when you hear rebalancing, asset allocation, these fancy terms, it just means get it back in order, right? With if you were moderate, it's moderate. If you're aggressive, is it still aggressive? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people everyone understands food, right? I can talk about portfolios, people fall asleep. I talk about pizza, they all sit up, right?
I know my ears perked up, you know.
And I'm just and no offense to anyone who doesn't like pepperoni or mushrooms. I just use those examples. But there's other things you can put on pizza. Uh,
Okay.
and then the other thing is everyone that we run into that's not yet investing or in business. I always hear it. I've heard it for years. I'll start a business when the time is right. I'll get married when the time is right. I'll have kids when the time is right. I'll do all these things when the time is right. The time, I mean, honestly, I think we know the time's never perfect, right? And
Yeah.
the whole key to doing anything and accomplishing things is just get started, right? It doesn't have to be, this giant road show. Just get started. If your employer offers a 401k, or if you're working for your municipality, like local government, hospital, stuff like that, you
Mhm.
have 403b, kind of the same thing. I would say start now, right? Just start. And Brian, for years, people have always argued with me, well, I can't afford that, right? Or I can't afford to invest, but I'm having my third venti giant latte of the day from Starbucks or Dutch Brothers or whatever coffee. They're spending $20 a day in coffee. So I just say, listen, start small. I always tell people, when in doubt, do something 1%, and then tell Brian the next time we get on here that impacted your lifestyle. But the whole thing is get
Yeah.
started.
Right.
And
No, and I see now that I'm like retiring, you
mhm,
know what I mean? This makes
yep,
so much sense. You know what I mean? And if I wouldn't have started at one time, I would never have been able to retire. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
yeah, great advice. This is great
Yeah,
advice.
put the math on your side, and there are, I mean, there are endless web pages on this subject. But the whole thing is to get started and put the math and the compounding and put time on your side.
Hmm.
And if your employer doesn't offer a 401k, there are a bunch of different places you can start on your own. The Fidelities of the world, we use Fidelity at our firm, Vanguard, Betterment, Robinhood, E-Trade. Just, it doesn't, honestly, it doesn't really matter which kind of platform or tool you use that much. Just go and start, right? Start someplace is kind of the
Uh,
key, and you'll figure out what you like, what's best for you, Brian. And we just tell people incrementally, right? Like 1%, right? 1%. I always tell people easiest way to fall off a tall building is a foot at a time, right? Rather than
yeah.
get 20 years down the road, realize you're trying to retire. and you don't have any money to do that, and you're just relying on Social Security or some
Yeah.
other social program, right? So take charge on your own course. And then, frankly, this is always not the most exciting topic, is just get your house in order, documents wise, right? And
Mhm.
a lot of people, and I see this on the Facebook groups and stuff, and I try to give some guidance without providing legal advice, but a lot of people use these kind of interchangeably, and they're not really interchangeable. But most importantly, I would say make sure you have a will, right? Especially if you have children or other people that depend on you, right? So essentially, these are the things that kind of live on after something ever possibly, God forbid, happens to you, right? So wills, trusts, medical directives, right? Who's making decisions for you medically when you can't? Some people hear about this, it's bundled together and called a living will. So I'm not here to tell you, the mechanics and structure. I'm just here to bring it up as a New Year's checklist. These are good things to have. Also,
Yeah.
the days of social media, right? Think about the past couple of years, all the people that have passed away due to whatever illnesses, accidents, COVID. A lot of them had social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram. A lot of people are designating who is that surrogate or who is that custodian if something should happen to one of us, who
Yeah.
takes over that social media account on my behalf if something happens to me or I become incapacitated. And then the final thing on the documents is beneficiary statements.
Oh,
Sounds like a big term, but for anyone who has an IRA, Brian, 401k, pension, life insurance policy, each one of those types of accounts has a what is called a beneficiary statement. And a lot of people think that and a will is interchangeable. It's not. Most beneficiary statements, Brian, on a retirement account, like a 401k, IRA, will actually supersede a will in court. So once again, I'm not a legal advisor. I'm just telling you from experience. There are different things, and a lot of people in this country have been surprised when something's happened to a family member when they realize they're not on the beneficiary statement. So, those kinds of things, and we're happy to answer any questions or provide any specific guidance here. But these are just great householding tips for the new year that you want to have kind of behind you, get your house in order, and mostly it's that documentation that I'm talking about.
yeah. No, this is great. This is great. God, thank you. This
Yeah.
is so informative. Yeah, Howard, yeah, can you let people know how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way? Can they call you? Do you have a
Yeah,
website?
absolutely. Let me put, sorry, I probably unshared my screen
Oh,
too
is that
quickly.
on? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It's on.
it was,
Okay.
it's on here, Brian. So, um, that's a real polished look there, but, you can contact me, on LinkedIn, my email address, our Arizona office here in Scottsdale, cell phone. Um, I always tell people, if you're not sure, pick up the phone, give me a call. Whether we can research the question in our staff. We have awesome staff, both on the tax side, Brian, as well as on the financial advisory side. And really, there's no real obligation to have to do anything with us, right? We're trying to inform, right? I really love what I do. I think I've shared that in every meeting.
Uh-huh.
I'm just kind of a nerd with this stuff.
Howard, you do a great job, believe me. Seriously. And can you let people know you have several locations where you
Yes, we
have,
do.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just one location.
Yes, so I'm down here with another associate in the Arizona Scottsdale area, and we have an office here, and then we've got a couple locations in the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle Everett area, and then we have a tax firm in the Portland, Vancouver, Washington market. So essentially, Helium Advisors, Brian, is part of a group of 3 tax and accounting firms and a financial planning and wealth management firm. So,
Oh, okay. All
and I,
right.
I
Well,
touch all of those.
yeah, no, this is great. This is great. So again, for our viewers that are out there, get in touch with Howard. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm telling you, yeah, for tax purposes, tax planning, tax preparation, financial advice, you name it, retirement. Go to his website. I went there. You have so many services you offer. It's great.
Yeah.
But Howard, yeah, any last words you want to say to the viewers?
I just I want everyone to obviously have a great new year, right? Make 2022 awesome, right? But the way to do that is to just simply write stuff down, right? If it comes to you and then you're in a restaurant, write it down on a paper napkin, hopefully. Just write it down, right? Figure out what it is that you want to do and then incrementally get moving, right? Start. And trust me, it's like going to the gym, but maybe it's more rewarding if you're more into business or entrepreneurship. And Brian, we're just seeing a record number of people starting businesses, going into just to their own thing, controlling their own destiny. And what better way than to have a great plan? And there's all kinds of weird statistics that say that more, people spend more time planning vacation than they do on their finances. So I'm
Oh,
hoping to
wow.
change that a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, that's smart. All right, well, Howard, thank you so much for being on here again. Yeah,
You're
it's
welcome,
great to
Brian.
see you, and happy, healthy New Year.
You too, Brian. Take care. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.